Yes, hello everyone, and welcome to the PE Insights podcast. Happy Friday, wherever you're listening, and we've got another fantastic episode lined up for you today. Lots of people actually asked for this episode, so it's a conversation between myself and two ECTs, so recently qualified PE teachers working in the same school that I was very fortunate to work with for 3 years. And within this episode, they kind of share their thoughts and their feelings around the challenges of being an ECT, but also their advice for trainee teachers and subject mentors. So lots to look forward to in this episode. Maybe grab a notepad and enjoy. It's a bit of an informal conversation, and you'll be able to figure that out from the way this episode starts.
I'll start recording.
Okay, sorry.
Here we are, serious. Yeah. So before we started recording this podcast episode, trying to get these two to stop giggling and laugh whilst in the same room has been quite the mission. But I'm sat opposite you in a different role today from the role that you're familiar that I've had over the last 3 years as your lecturer and someone who's guided you through teacher education. Today I'm sat opposite you as a podcast host, and it's incredibly pleasing to see you in this position as ECTs at school. I've come in to visit you in school today, and it just makes me feel happy. You know, it comes back to my why I do my job, get positive, inspirational PE teachers in school in front of kids, and you two are exactly that. So thank you for agreeing to do a podcast with me, despite me having to maybe twist your arm a little bit, Ella particularly. What I thought we could do with first is maybe just introduce yourself to the listeners, and we'll start by going through what your educational journey was. So Carrie, we'll start with you if that's all right.
I went to secondary school at Plymouth Academy, school outside of Plymouth. Did A-levels there as well. And I think I started enjoying PE probably about year 8, and that's when they started doing leadership in sessions where we got to take a bit of charge. And we did primary events, and that's when I was like, oh, this is actually what I want to do. So yeah. I knew quite early on, but kept A-levels quite open just in case I changed my mind. But no, stayed more and more passionate about it. And then did the B.Ed at Marjon for 3 years. Really enjoyed that. Was very grateful for the variety of placements. Like a special school in Dawlish was really eye-opening. Up in London, seeing the schools up there in like inner city is very different to Plymouth.
I should say so.
So that was good. And then done work experience sort of stuff at summer camps, which again has been quite a big part of why I'm here now. Working at Teen from September as an ECT.
Brilliant. Yeah, thanks, Carrie. Ella?
So I went to secondary school at Brixton College in the depths of Torbay. And I started coaching gymnastics from about year 8 as a young leader, and that's really what opened my eyes to what sport could be rather than just taking part in it as a participant. That made me want to become a PE teacher. We then actually had a trainee from Marjon at Brixton, which opened my eyes to Marjon, and I think I was set on going to Marjon since about year 9. I stayed on at Brixton to do A-levels, did sport, geography and biology, and then started the B.Ed at Marjon with Carrie. And I love Marjon. I think the community that's there is so nice and inclusive to learn in because it's so small, so it's so easy to get the support you need and speak to people and share ideas. And I think in the teaching world, you need that. And now, started my ECT 1 at Teen School.
Brilliant. So the listeners won't know you both. Some might, if your friends or family or your course mates are listening, perhaps colleagues listening, but I know you both, and you are a great combination because you're both very different. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it'd be good for us to kind of explore why PE is important to you and why PE is important. So maybe go out to Carrie first.
For me, it's about the holistic development. I think as a subject, you've got the opportunity to tap into the child in physically, mentally, socially. There's studies showing it's proved academically, helps as well. But also for me, it's very important about the pastoral side. I think we spoke about it earlier where you spot a lot more problems and worries from children because it is quite a vulnerable subject. You've got to change in front of each other. We're in and out the changing rooms so we can spot stuff. And for me, that's a big part of why I do it as well. As much as in the classroom, I think the wraparound of the changing rooms, the informal conversations during the lesson about their lives. We learn a lot more about them from that than perhaps classroom teachers get the opportunity for. So for me, as much as it's about the sport and the movement, I think the pastoral side is something that's often overlooked, of like, that is part of our subject. That's why we teach. We do genuinely care about them, and we have the opportunity to see them so vulnerable, which can be scary at times, but it's a privilege in the fact that we can then help them then and there, but then pass them on to who they need the best support from the school.
Yeah, nice. And you're not just that you talk about physical health in there, obviously, but you're quite passionate about mental health and well-being, aren't you? And you've done some studies before about like cold water, and how is that shaping your teaching or the way that you teach physical education?
Here at Teen, they've got a wide variety on the curriculum, and I think that really suits how I see PE should be, of loads of different activities where you've got the opportunity to focus on maybe skill development, or you've got the opportunity to talk about mental health. Today I did an OAA lesson on trust, and we did like a hands up question where it was, do you trust someone else in the group? And some of them were honest and they kept their hands down, and then that led into, okay, we're going to talk about empathy now, of if they're not feeling like they trust people, these activities are going to be quite scary for those individuals. And that took it way beyond the physical of actually catching each other or moving crates around. And we talked much more about, they could then use that outside of the classroom of, okay, I may not be nervous about this and it seems really easy for me, but I can see how someone else will.
Yeah, brilliant.
And being really explicit about character development as well, I think is really important. Yeah,
nice, because obviously there's that that stereotypical or generalization of what PE is a subject about elite sport and sports skill technique development, multi-activities. But then doing that, you've just talked about going beyond the physical. So for learners in that group, they're starting to realise that actually it's not about movement right now. It's more about character development, trust and safety, security, those types of things. And that's a really sort of quite a nice nuanced way to think about our subject, which I know you're very passionate about. So Ella, why is PE important to you?
I agree with what Carrie said, and I think that's why we've ended up in a very similar school, is we have a very similar ethos. And so although other subjects tap into other skills, I think PE is the only subject where we develop them in all of their strands, emotionally, physically, socially. And for me personally, I don't get pleasure out of a lesson if 5 of them have been able to leave doing a perfect cricket bowl. It's when actually you focus on those skills, the communication, and they've left speaking to a new person and they've now got someone they can go to lunch with. Or we've got one student in a class that we share, and they came to us mute in year 7, and now they get changed for PE. They join in PE. They've started coming to running club after school. And around school, we've had feedback that student is completely different now that they've found their space. They've found people they get on with. And that is much bigger than them leaving school being able to perform a cricket bowl, do a cartwheel in gymnastics. That skill is going to be transferred into jobs, into relationships, different things in life that they need to be able to do. And actually, I think that's way bigger than developing elite athletes. There's provisions for that already. And so physical education is about, we use head, heart, hands here, and it is for me about that heart objective even more than the hands.
And you've both tapped into your own personal sort of philosophies there, so thank you for sharing about that. And obviously something I'm really interested in, the research around meaningful PE, and R. Scott Kretschmar often talks about movement kingdoms or our movement playgrounds. So finding that space where we just go and find joy and delight through being physically active and moving. And for some, bowling a cricket ball is never going to be that playground or that kingdom. It's about directing them towards that, but keeping them safe and secure and healthy whilst doing so. So you're both ECTs now. I want to kind of delve into that a little bit. How have you found your ECT year so far? You can be honest. What have the rewards been? What are the biggest challenges been? You might want to kind of bounce off each other.
I think we've had a very different ECT term 1 experience. The department, due to different circumstances, was down 2 members of staff. So we really were thrown in at the deep end. And it put a lot of pressure on. There was a lot of work that we needed to do, whilst also getting to grips with the school, the routines, getting to know our classes. But I think also it was a positive in the sense of we've not been able to rely on anybody else. We've had to take complete ownership over what we've done. It's given us the chance we had to get to know the pupils quicker because we were taking them on fixtures on week 2. We've had to be able to do the risk assessments, etc. for fixtures because we've had to just be able to do it. There's no one else around all the time to help. And so although it's been really challenging, I've really enjoyed term 1. And I think it's maybe towards the end of placement last year, I was starting to forget why I wanted to teach just because of the pressures of different things from university, like dissertations, deadlines, getting your grade, and sometimes your philosophy and the reason why got lost. And it's just reminded me why I'm doing it. I've seen the little wins with certain students and it's made me think that I've made the right decision. And I think a big impact on that is actually having another ECT to do it with. We've been able to bounce ideas off each other, say, I've had a really bad day, this hasn't gone my way. And they've gone, you know what, I had the exact same experience, don't worry about it. And I think that's made a huge impact.
Yeah, I was speaking to Kira earlier and she shared that when you left the trampolines up intentionally because you're having a bad day to go and bounce around for a bit.
I messaged Carrie yesterday and the last message on our WhatsApp was, I've left the trampoline up, I think you need to have a bit of a bounce because she just had a really bad day. So.
Do you think, obviously you're in your second term now, do you think that you're a bit more settled now you've had a full term in school? Do you think things are getting slightly easier?
100%. We know the students. I think we found our role within the department. So we've got our clubs that we do. We know who's going to be in the change room, who's giving out spare kit. I feel like things are starting to fall into place and the students have got used to us. So routines that we've tried to establish ourselves are starting to work. Whereas before they were a bit like, well, our old teacher didn't do that. And it's like, so we've started to establish ourselves within the school.
That's a challenge, isn't it? When you're new to a school, it's not just you establishing yourself, but it's almost changing their perspectives or experiences from previous teachers. And that's always quite difficult. Carrie, what do you how have you found it?
Echoing what Ella said, very similar, like quite a chaotic start, but at the same time that was really nice to have the trust from the rest of the department of we know it's busy. We often had like cakes and stuff brought in as thanks, and it's the think of it's really busy, but we know you've got it, and it's one of them where I know you've got this 5-period day and a fixture, but I know you've got it, and we're here if you need. And it's not never felt like we're stepping on anyone's toes by doing stuff. Felt very much like we started up a running club, so it was we're missing this audience that aren't coming along to clubs that are quite individual characters at first, like student Ella mentioned earlier, who was pretty much non-verbal, and it's tapped into that audience, and it was I want to start this up, can we do it? I will help you show the risk assessment, clear that off you go. And it's been one of them where we've had 2 buses full of children going off-site to run, walk. Some are doing like informal couch 5K, others are doing their first 5Ks they've ever ran in about 30 minutes, which is they're really proud of themselves, as they should be. So I think, although it's been really busy, it's been a good busy, and it's been we've had support from members of staff covering in the department who have again done like check-ins, really experienced teachers, coaches, etc. He's come in and been that uplift of like reminding us of, okay, what's your highlight for the day? It changes your mindset in the moment of actually has been a really good day, like I had this positive interaction, I've had this one, that class was difficult for a number of reasons, like establishing those routines, like Ella mentioned, but there are the little wins throughout the day, and it's nice like having each other to remind each other, you've had that win, that did go well, or I made the same mistake, or heads up on this before you do that.
Because I think as a trainee, you always have someone watching your lesson with you, and most of the time they start with a positive in that lesson. So even if you leave thinking it was the worst lesson you've ever taught, they feed back those positives to you. Whereas now it's just you and the students. And although the students often say, I really enjoyed that today, or thank you, miss, and it makes you think, okay, it was okay. But you have to be that support for yourself now and have that confidence yourself. And the department have been very supportive in reminding us that we're doing the right thing, letting us make those decisions. But I think being thrown in fully in the deep end, actually, it's built my confidence a lot. It made me realise, like, oh, I can teach 5 lessons and take the netball fixture out and be back and be ready to do the tomorrow as well.
Yeah.
And I think you need that as an ECT, because you do have a lot of support as a trainee that is suddenly taken as an ECT.
Yeah, we never really know what we're capable of doing until we're put in that space. And I think you're quite unique, maybe uniquely positioned to be a little partner, a little duo in the PE department. I can't recall certainly 2 ECTs starting in the same department in PE roles for a while. So that's I'm glad you're making the most of that and finding it beneficial, which is great. This is almost like a retrospective question, and if you could, knowing what you know now and how you feel now, if you could go back to the first week of your ECT, what would you tell yourself?
You don't need to know it all now. I think I felt very nervous coming in, not knowing the school, not knowing the routines, and then it being really busy as well. I felt like I'd gone back and I was coming out of lessons, and I know we spoke about it to each other about, I know I can do better. Like, that wasn't my best lesson. I should have handled that differently, or this never used to stress me out, and why am I getting stressed now about I don't know, ringing home. And it's one of them of, it takes a bit of time to settle in because you are at a new place. And I think as a trainee, you get the chance to observe a class and see it from the bigger picture. Whereas now you go straight in and you don't have that opportunity to have that bigger picture before you go in. I think it's just one of them, just trust yourself, it will fall into place, and feel a little less like it's trying to keep head above water, and it's meant to be like that. And then you finally go. For me.
Ella?
I think you're trusting those mistakes that you make as well. Like, nobody is perfect, whether you've been teaching for 15 years, whether it's your first ECT year. Like, we're all going to have bad lessons. We're all going to try things that haven't quite worked. We're going to have a bit of tension with a student at some point and have to find out how we're going to work around that. And like, that's okay as an ECT as much as it is in 10 years time. And I think at the start I thought, well, we're not trainees anymore. Like, we need to be having a good lesson, every lesson, everything needs to be perfect. And it's just not going to happen.
No, it won't happen.
We've talked about this loads as well. Accepting that you're never going to be done. Like, you're going to have a to-do list, and you'll take one thing off and add 5. And Carrie's makes me laugh. It's on the back of the seating plan at the minute, and it's so long. And like, we've said it so many times, I'm like, Carrie, that's not going to get done tonight. Or she'll say it to me. And it's just accepting that if you're in a place where you can come in and teach your lessons tomorrow, leave it there and do it tomorrow. There is no more staying till like 6 o'clock doing tasks that could wait this term.
I heard it about like what the kids, they don't need a tired teacher. And that for me was like, okay, I need to do a bit of,
it's the last thing they need.
A bit of self-care here, and know when to stop, know when to go in the gym together and have that switch off, go for a run. So then, yes, you might not have the board written up ready to go, but you yourself, you're calm, ready for them. You're happy when they first walk in because your face subconsciously is you are calm and you're happy and ready to go, and you're not giving off the signal of I'm stressed, because then they get that.
But even a neutral face is perceived as negative, isn't it, by those that
that's been a massive one, isn't it? No checklist. It's going to be done, and that is fine, and that's what it's meant to be.
And I must kind of admit and let the listeners know that you both have very high standards for yourself, and you both be the first to criticize or self-criticize. But I think you know, finding that balance of workload is really, really important and crucial. So well done. You, in your current role and last year, would have been influenced by mentors. There's always someone that's responsible for guiding you in your development. Have you got any advice for mentors? Anything that works well, anything that maybe doesn't work so well?
I think trust us as trainees as much as we do need support and guidance. There's an element of letting us fail and letting us go, I want to try this new idea where students are more in charge in the lesson. And the first time I implement that, it might seem chaotic and it may not work and I might need to rethink it, but please trust in the fact of trying to make a new way of how PE looks, and that lesson is not going to have the same success criteria as perhaps is in the head of a mentor. And the mentors I'm most grateful for are those that ask me first, what did you want from this lesson? And I remember having ones where it was it about the quality of, say, their dance piece, or how they worked as a team and attacking in football? And I said, actually, no, it wasn't about that. It was about, were they confident enough to perform in front of others? Or during those team talks, were they knowing when to pause when someone else was talking? Or did they know even something so simple of when they stand in a circle for a team talk, are they all in that circle? Because I absolutely hate it when there's a circle and then they're not letting people in. They don't automatically shuffle over to let someone else in. So it's like the little wins like that that are more important to me, which is where I've spun my lesson towards to plan it. But I think sometimes if you see it from a point of view of, okay, what physical progress was made, we could look at the same lesson in a very different way of, it wasn't very successful from the eyes of a mentor because physically they didn't develop that lesson. But from my end, it might have been successful in my way of, socially they've developed how I wanted them to develop in that one. And you're always going to take stuff from feedback, so still give your honest feedback because you can have skill development as well as social at the same lesson. But I think keep the trust there and keep the conversation open of, what does success look like? Because PE looks very different even from when we were in school, and that wasn't that long ago. And then if you go 20 odd years back from that, it's a very different picture. Trust.
I like that, Carrie, and you know I like that because that's my area of research. But there is often a power imbalance between a mentor and a mentee, and sometimes that power imbalance leads to the mentor feeling like they have to sculpt a trainee into the teacher they feel they should be, rather than guiding and coaching the mentor, the trainee, into the teacher they want to become, by listening to their philosophy, by giving them the opportunities to trial things, by allowing them to reflect. And that's a really powerful thing. So less narrative description on what they're seeing from the lesson, less I and you in the feedback. So I would have done this and you did this, because that makes it personal and also says that their way is perceived as better than yours. And then reducing that power imbalance to maybe create more collaboration and co-construction of targets and steps forward. Yeah, nice. Thanks, Carrie. So anything from you, Ella?
I think you've both touched on what I was going to say, in the fact of like, your mentor needs to allow you to fail at some point. Like, they might read your lesson plan before the lesson and think, I'm not sure that's going to work, but you need to experiment yourself and find out why it didn't work. And also see if you can adapt in the moment. If it's really not working, how are you going to change it so that the students still get something out of that lesson? Because when you come to teach in your ECT years and obviously beyond, there's no one there to tell you that's not going to work, or to tell you to change it quickly because they don't think it's going to work. And we're going to learn from having a slightly unsuccessful lesson. That's the only way you're going to learn that didn't really work with that class. But it's also to say that doesn't mean it's not going to work in the future with another class. It really depends on the students you have in front of them, what they like, what they dislike, their characteristics. And like you say, I think if you can co-create those lessons a bit more, and instead of saying this was bad because you did this, why don't we try this next lesson? Or you can observe me do it and see how you think it would work in your lesson. Because I think I've been on placement where it's, you did this, but I definitely wouldn't have done it like that. I would have done this. And you sat there thinking, so everything I've done is wrong. When it's not wrong, it just wasn't successful that time for whatever reason.
And it's, you're singing off the same hymn sheet essentially here. I guess the pressure from the mentor is that the buck still stops with them, because when you're a trainee teacher, not now, because you're responsible for the classes you teach now, but when you're a trainee, it's still their group of learners that they're responsible for. And ultimately, they're letting you teach their class, and there's a little bit of tension there, I guess, isn't there? But I think clear and open communication is one of the key things you've talked about, and being really honest and open about what you want from that relationship with a mentor is something that's going to help that, isn't it?
I think as well, there's been placements where I've gone in and the teachers have given me their opinion on certain students and what you need to look for. Obviously, you need to know the key information about SEND or additional needs that you need to be aware of. But there's been some where they've told me that student's really, really challenging. They won't do this, they won't do that. And then actually it's just a different relationship comes in. And the way that you've formed it, you've managed to build a relationship where they are doing that. But because you had that preconception, sometimes as a trainee, it makes you nervous to approach that student or to try and build that relationship and change it. Whereas even this year, there's some students that we struggle to get in kit, but Carrie can get them in kit really easily, or I can get them in kit, but they won't do it for the other one. And it's just using those relationships. And I think if a mentor has already told you and put in your head that they won't do that, they can't do that, you as a trainee don't feel in the position to explore and push that boundary a bit more.
Yeah.
So keeping.
I also guess with mentors, most of the time they do know what they're talking about.
Oh yeah.
Right. So I guess you're talking now, reflecting, but you've developed. So let's just think if we had maybe a first year BEd going in and working with a mentor. Is there a time and a place for the mentor to say, this is what you need to do, because they've never had that experience, or they don't have the knowledge to do it in the first place? So do you think there's potentially, this is me thinking out loud now, a spectrum of how much interaction or interruption you need from a mentor depending on your journey? So I'm thinking you're probably reflecting on where you were close towards the end of placement B, where you wanted that freedom. But should you be a year one trainee on your first 3-week placement and you're leading an episode, you might need an experienced teacher to say, hey, you could do this. I would do this here. Maybe this works with this group. It's worked with this group before. So maybe there is a spectrum of that sort of relationship.
Yeah, there definitely is a spectrum. And I think it doesn't necessarily matter about the timeline either. Like if you're in third year and you've not taught a certain sport or not taught in a certain location and there's a health and safety, please always step in and say it, because stuff's not always obvious. Like table tennis tables, a lot of us know how to put them out by the end. But there's loads of different types of table tennis tables. And if me putting it up in this way that I think is know-how is going to flip it, please let me know.
Yeah.
And I think it's a similar thing.
You're speaking from experience.
Yes.
In the past week.
Or in London, just like completely over.
Yeah.
But even with students about like, make sure you're not raising your voice near them. I've got a couple in my group that even if it's a positive raised voice, like loud praise, that stresses them out and they'll literally run. So it's about a heads up about that of, okay, I need to give quite a praise even to the whole group for that one student. So stuff like that that's really, really helpful. And I think it's not to put mentors off from giving feedback, give the honest feedback, but then also reduce the pressure of, as a trainee, take what I want from it. And the same thing as a trainee, you will always gain something from feedback. Even if you get one bit of feedback that you feel doesn't fit the way you want to teach, don't dismiss, even if it's not your mentor, even if it's another person in that department, they have so much value and experience because of the way they teach. Take what you can from them. Don't dismiss them as, okay, I didn't agree with that one bit of feedback, so I'm not going to take a word you say. And I think sometimes, I know I get quite defensive about criticism because I'm so critical about myself. So I feel like if I get one bit of negative, that's the one bit that sticks in my head.
Yeah.
And then I lose sight of all the other bits and pieces that I got back.
Yeah.
And negative criticism is really helpful in the fact of, I have so much trust in you as a trainee, or your passion for this PE is really, really good. You can be so much better. This is just the journey. Like even now, like I'd love criticism from like mentor here. It's really nice when he goes, have you tried this? Can you try this? Because I still want to develop. I don't want to be at the point.
Do we need to change the term then? Do you think criticism is the right word for it? We call it constructive criticism, don't we? And constructive criticism is kind of like a nice spin on criticism, but
progressive feedback.
Feedback is a gift.
Yeah.
Like we are given the gift of feedback to reflect and improve. So no matter what the feedback is, it's what you do with it is the most important thing, isn't it? I want to flip it a little bit then and turn you into a semi mentor or someone providing feedback, what advice would you give as two ECTs doing very well at the minute in schools to someone in their final training year, whether that's a BEd third year or a PGCE, someone in their qualifying year? What advice would you give them?
Take every opportunity that's given to you. If you're asked to, do you mind just stepping in and doing this lunchtime club because so-and-so has been caught up with something, do it, experience it, see what it's like to not quite get your lunchtime fully, but still have to go and take a lesson period 5. That is what happens. But also, it gives your mentor a good impression. It shows that you're willing to learn, that you're willing to step above and beyond what they originally expected of you. And with that, it might come failure. It might be that period 5 lesson, or not failure, a learning opportunity. It might be that period 5 lesson.
First attempt in learning.
Yes, wasn't as good as it could have been. And you might think, oh, it's because I didn't have time to do this.
Yeah.
But you need to experience that. Your mentor can then open the conversation of how can we deal with that in a different way. And you have to be able to be strong enough to take that feedback, take those constructive criticisms, and don't see it personally, but see it as a way to develop. I think it's very easy when you're in the moment and you've had 3 feedbacks that day from different lessons, and there's always going to be something you can improve in every single lesson. Someone can tell you that was great and you'll forget it in a heartbeat. Someone tells you that wasn't very good. You think about it until that next lesson, until you see if you've improved it. And so you need to not take it personally and be able to think, okay, how can I action this to make it better?
Yeah.
Do you have any advice? Can I come and observe your lesson to see if it's better? And just take those opportunities, go and observe people, do a fixture, go with them, see what it's like, because the more you expose yourself to it, the more you see the reality of what teaching actually is.
Nice. How can we hold on to the positives better? How do we do that?
I've started a list just on my notes of like every day, just before I go to bed, I'll write in there something positive from the day. It doesn't have to be from school. I do it on the weekends as well.
Journaling,
Yeah. And when I was in secondary school, I used to do what I thought was traditional journaling of literally good and bad lists for the day, or just write down for 10 minutes, like 10-minute worry time, get it out of my head. And I think now I've developed it a little bit further just for myself. I find it quite nice to just keep it positive, of just one thing that went well. And it didn't have to be from me. One thing that made my day, it could have been someone else held the door open, or someone else stopped the bus for someone else. And like that genuinely makes my day. So I've wrote it down. So then I've got something to look back on and go, that was really good. Or
how often do you look at it?
I'd say probably like in the day, I'll like flash through it like at the end of the day. But then I'll say like every 2 weeks I have a proper like back read through, which was especially helpful in first term of like reminding of there is real positives. Like I may not feel like I'm doing my best, but I had a really nice interaction with that pupil, or we had 2 buses full for running club. Or I learnt this from watching this lesson. Like we will sometimes hop in on each other's lessons if we're free, and like Ella will be like, right, swivel hips competition, like the kids ask for it, so we'll do it. And Ella's obviously a lot better gymnastics. So even stuff like that, like it's nice to look back on of that was hilarious. Or like the roller skating disco you organised. For the year 11s as a taster, I just hopped in on the lesson and was roller skating around with them.
I love that, isn't it? And you've Ella identified that, and I'm sure you agree that we do hold on to the negative feedback we receive, and we do think about it. But having a system in place that allows you to reflect on the positive things that happen is really powerful. James Clear's book, Atomic Habits, talks about our systems, right? And that is a really nice example of a system that allows you to reflect on the positive things that happen in your life, which sometimes we don't do enough. Yeah, and I love that. I really do. Is there anything you would give in terms of advice to final year trainees?
I think similar about experiences. For me, my experiences outside of placement, I think were just as impactful as in placement. So extra opportunities. It was actually you that suggested going to SBC this summer, boarding course camps, and that for me gave me the chance to have the responsibility that I have now as an ECT, where I was solely in charge of the group. Saw the pastoral side more in boarding schools, which being from Plymouth, going to just a state secondary school, I'd never seen that side of education. And I think, although my placements were very varied, seeing that side of like international students coming over gave me a different experience, which I can now bring into this school. And I think the best thing for trainees to do is get as many different experiences. I'm not saying for every single trainee to go to an international camp, but if they went and did some additional coaching or went into different age groups, if they went to primary schools, if they went to SEND schools outside of placement, as much as the placements give you so much, if you can add on and what's different. I remember from my first year placement at Saltash, it was the 3-week one. I remember Dan said, you might not remember he said it, but he was like, always think what makes you different, or what can you bring to the department. They don't want, or good departments don't want everyone to be the same. They want that table or the office to look very different. And it's like me and Ella are very different in certain ways, and similar in some. And that's what makes the department strong, is because if you think how many kids are in a school, they need different role models, they need different faces. And that's what, so don't think other trainees are doing this, I should be doing that. Think, what are you passionate about? Read up on it, go find experiences on it, and be proud that that is your strength.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, that's it really.
I love that. Yeah, opportunities and experiences invaluable.
Don't compare yourself as well as what you're kind of touching on there.
Especially
like everybody is so different in the place they are in their journey. Like I'm sure at third year, when you were on your final placement, I wouldn't have been doing the exact same thing you were doing. Like they might have done a fixture before you, they might have started to take the lessons before you. It doesn't mean that you are less than them. It doesn't mean you're not going to get to the same point as them. It just means that because of your school or because of your mentor, you're doing it in a slightly different way, and it's not wrong. And I think if you start to compare yourself, that's where you let the self-doubt creep in of, why are they doing that and I'm not? And actually you don't see the full picture. They can tell you one thing, but you're not in the school seeing it. It's not necessarily what is happening. And so definitely don't compare yourself. Just be proud of where you are. And remain focused on you instead of what the rest of the cohort are doing.
Nice, the story of the self thing, isn't it? That I say it quite often, comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah, definitely.
The more you compare yourself to other people, you realise that, there's other things that you want, there's things that you haven't got, and that comparison can be quite damning to your mental health and the way you see things.
Just enjoy what you're doing.
Yeah, think about the journey. Without chucking too many cliches in at this point, but, becoming a teacher is a journey of an individual through different phases, and it's, without going into too much depth around occupational socialization theory and Lorty's apprenticeship of observation, when we watch teachers as young children in secondary school, in primary school, we start to think about the identity of a teacher, and then if one day we want to become a teacher, that shapes the teacher we want to be, and then we go into professional socialization where we start training, and then we go into a job where we work with other teachers, and that's always impacting our identity. But it's your identity. So as soon as you start comparing yourself with others, the focus almost it hinders that process, doesn't it? I think, and that's really valuable advice from you. So with that in mind, and reflecting on your journey, what do you think is missing from teacher training, or was missing from your teacher training when you experienced it?
I mean, every experience is different. So even if we look at the Mahjong courses, as a B.Ed, you do more placements than you would do on a PGCE, so naturally you experience more. You experience different types of schools, you do a SEND placement, which you just don't have the time to do on a PGCE. And so I do think that it depends on your journey and what you've chosen to do. But a big one for me was towards the end of that final placement, if you're ready and all your mentors agree and you feel ready, I think more responsibility needs to be put on you as the trainee. So have the idea of planning a fixture. You need to get the team sheet ready. You need to get them into the correct kit on the day. Can you book the bus? Obviously, you're not going to drive the bus there yourself, but can you go and umpire? Can you get all these students ready? Because then I got to my second week of my ECT 1 and I was on my first netball fixture, driving the bus on my own, having to book it, and I didn't know where to book it.
Yeah.
I didn't know. You don't realise that 3 kids are going to drop out on the day and you're going to be running around at break time trying to find anyone that will come into play.
Yeah, we've all
and
been
then
there.
phoning parents
Yeah.
to get their consent, or students trying to text their parents. And I think that that's really important. As a PE teacher, that is going to fall into your job at some point, whether it's in the second week or a year down the line, but you need to have experienced that. And not just in PE. I mean, geography, you're going to go on field studies.
Yeah.
Drama, you might go and watch a show. And I think you need to understand the risk assessments involved and those different things, because you've done loads of classroom work now. What's beyond the classroom?
Yeah.
Similar to, you need to experience the pastoral side. Have you led tutor for a whole week? Have you had to follow up on perhaps a safeguarding incident and put it on CPOMs? It's not just what happens in the classroom that matters anymore. And I think sometimes as a trainee, you're a bit sheltered to that.
Okay. And do you think that's to do with maybe in line with like the progress that you're making? So I'm thinking from experience that, because you just mentioned then, like at the end of placement, when your QTS is almost nailed, your mentor's happy with you, then we can start to do this wraparound additional stuff, the professional role of the teacher. Or should it be a consistent throughout the whole thing? Should you be managing your teaching and planning with that? The experience, it's an invaluable experience, isn't it? And you need to do it as a teacher. But I wonder when that should happen. When do you think it should happen along the journey?
I think it just could be drip fed in as you go. So instead of planning the whole fixture in first year, because you don't know the students that well, come and sit with me, we'll book the bus together, come along with me and you can learn what it's about. We observe tutor times as a trainee in placement 1, but just drip feed it in. If you're ready, you feel ready, your mentor thinks you're ready, okay, let's move on to the next bit. Do you think that you can actually get the team together now you know the students more? Can you sort their dresses at lunchtime or their kit? And just as and when you're ready, as long as the communication's open between you and your mentor, there's no harm in asking. Don't be afraid to say, can I try this? If they say no, then there'll probably be a reason for that. And so listen to it, and maybe it's not the right time for you to try.
Okay. Nice.
But I think it's as and when you're ready and when they think you're ready.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Carrie?
I think about funding. Like, I'd love to know how to tap into whether it's council funding, government funding for those additional opportunities for students. I saw it on placement in London. Head of the department up there, Martin, was incredible at getting funding. I don't know how on earth he managed to get so much, but he took the kids off-site climbing, and it was very much centred around OAA, because that was his area he was really passionate about. He originally came up from Cornwall. And I rang him towards the end of final year, and I was like, I'm just intrigued, how do you do it? Like, I don't quite understand the process. Am I meant to be asking for the bid, or does the bid automatically come to us, or how does it work? And I saw similar thing at the SEND placement at Orchard Manor. Catherine there managed to get a lot of money for specialist bikes and a container to store them in, and that opened up so many opportunities for those students to do it in school, but also a free rental system on the weekends so the families could use
amazing,
it.
isn't it?
And I think I would just love to know more how to tap into that. Especially in the Southwest, I think we have so many outdoor facilities. We have the moors, we have the sea, we have the river, and it's knowing how can we get students there to show them. At Paynton, I was terrified that some of the students had never seen the sea before. Students who live within a mile of the school, they'd never seen it. So I think having a bit more training, whether that's external speakers coming in about this is how you tap into Sport England funding or National Lottery funding, because right now I don't think I have the time or the confidence to go, okay, I'm going to try and do this and this. And I wish I had that at this early point where we have the enthusiasm already and the fresh face in the school to hit the ground running with it. So I think that's something we're talking about, like diverse experiences in PE, but quite often facilitating it. Money's a big barrier. Getting the clearance for health and safety and the time of organising. So I think that's something that could be explored.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's
I agree.
going to take a long time, I think, to implement it. And
no, I agree. And I think obviously Orchard Manor, where you were, they're the lead inclusivity school in the Southwest now for Youth Sport Trust, and they're doing fantastic things in there. And a lot of that stems from having the resource and the bids and the passion and enthusiasm to do it. Yeah. Is there anything else?
I think how to deal with parents and keeping the communication open with people at home, parents, carers, whoever it may be, that is the main support system at home for that child. You need to be on the same page as them. They need to know what's going on in school, and the better communication you have with them, the better relationship you can build with that child, the more success you can have with them. However, that's not always easy. I think we've all had a phone call where we've rang home expecting to have a little bit of support or to have a positive conversation about an outcome, and it goes in the complete opposite direction. And it's actually knowing how to deal with that and knowing where to go from there, what strategies you can use to de-escalate things if you need to. But also, I didn't realise the impact positive phone calls made in the classroom. Not just at home, that child got a bit of praise. They come back in and they are a changed person a little bit. They tell their friends, "Oh, be quiet, Mrs. waiting for you to listen." Or they'll say, "Miss, do you want me to do the equipment?" Just because they've had that positive input at home, they've realised they've been recognised both in school and at home. And it makes such big impact. But on training, on my last placement third year, I made some phone calls because Kira was very adamant that it would help, and it definitely did. But before that, I'd never been pushed. And as a trainee, it's something that I found really scary. Like, we're only 21, 22 ourselves. We're closer to the child's age than the parent a lot of the time. And sometimes you don't feel equipped to have that conversation. Or I'm worried, like, if I call them in for a meeting, they're not going to think that I should be the one talking to them about it because we look quite young. And how to keep those connections, how to make yourself be seen as a professional. Because at the end of the day, it makes a better situation for the student, and that's what we're all aiming for. But I think it's a very difficult thing to establish and maintain.
I agree. It's very challenging and still difficult for someone with years of experience to have those conversations. Anyone in teacher education, I'm hoping you're listening and responding to these suggestions. We certainly have. We've spoken about this before. Our first years and second years now will do role play and kind of have scenarios of answering phone calls, responding to emails, that sort of stuff, because it is important. So thank you for sharing them. It's always really, really important. We're going to go into quick fire questions now then. Finish off. Pressure's on. We'll start with the first one. What are your non-negotiables for positive experiences for all in PE?
For me, it's about like the psychological safety of it. Of can they come in and have you give them a warm-up period, and it's not a physical warm-up, a warm-up of, okay, I recognise you actually are nervous about doing this activity. Your nerves are coming across as you're being a bit defiant, but it's just because you're nervous. And having that freedom to have a warm-up and go, I'm still going to hold the expectation, but I'm going to give you a little bit of take-up time to get there, because I know you can get there, and having that for that student. And I think that starts at the door of whether, is it a welcoming environment? Is there music on? Are you a smiling face ready for them? Interactions about kit as well. Quite often avoidance comes through, I'm not going to bring my kit, and breaking that down and spending time to break that down. But in that breakdown, it needs to be a positive interaction of, I know you can bring kit, or do we actually not have kit at home? And lending it out, which is really important, I think, in schools, to have enough kit to give out at points, because PE is one tiny fraction of a kid's life. And kit could sometimes be the last thing on their list. They may not have even brought a bag to school, some of the students. So I think having that safety, welcoming face of, it's okay, you've made that mistake, but here's the kit, fresh start, let's crack on with the lesson. And kids do often value that of, okay, I have got a fresh start now, rather than punishing straight from the door of, oh, no kit, then no point coming to my lesson then. So getting them in the door. When they're in there, having absolutely no belittling, any pressure from peers. I think that's really important to stamp out, and do it in an educational way rather than, again, punishing way. Of have that conversation with the students. Why are you making that other student feel small? Is it because you're feeling small yourself, or what's causing you to speak to people like this? Like, have you been spoken to? Do you think it's acceptable? And again, take up time with that, so that then students do feel free to try stuff. I think it's really nice we have mixed gender groups here.
Yeah.
And we often talk about, we think the dropout of girls especially is lower here because of that, because right from year 7, you're in a PE group. It's not a girls group, it's not a boys group. There's no stereotypes attached to that. And anyone who wants to go between the two, you're just in the PE group. And that's really important, of just, do you feel comfortable in the classroom? As soon as I've got that, and you're comfortable to talk to me when you are having a bad day and you are tired, or you are in your period and it is really heavy, having that understanding of, okay, because you've tried so hard in other weeks, I know that this is actually a week you do need a little bit lighter exercise, or you are knackered, you can help me umpire, or you are really nervous to go on those trampolines, let's build up in the weeks and get you on them.
Nice.
But yeah, psychological
Brilliant.
safety for me is the...
I love that, Carrie. I love that. Ella?
I think very similar to what you're saying, it all comes down to being inclusive. PE for every student isn't going to look the same. Some people are going to come in to get that physical activity, to become better in football, better in rugby, whatever their goal may be. Others, it might actually be just getting in the kit. That was their biggest challenge of the week and they've succeeded. And I think all of that comes from student voice. You're never going to get a PE lesson that the students enjoy and value if you haven't listened to them. If you're constantly telling them, we're going to do this today, and they're constantly saying, I don't really like that, or I'm not finding this enjoyable, I'm finding this challenging, and we're not listening, they're never going to build that positive relationship with sport, with PE. And yes, sometimes we have to tell them we're going to try this, because sometimes we have to do things we don't enjoy, but it's about having that balance of, we're going to listen, next week we'll try that.
You didn't have to stop for the bell. It's all good.
I forget it's there.
Yeah.
But like, listening to them, you're like you say, you're never going to create an experience that means something to them and is valuable if we just keep going along our path that we've planned, because they're all different and you're never going to reach every single child in the same way.
Lovely. If there was something you could remove from PE, what would you like to remove or attempt to remove?
I would love to remove the stereotype PE still has with some people. We're really trying to do that at Team, connecting with parents and other teachers around the school. Of a lot of them still have the impression that PE is, right, we'll put you in bed, you're going to play a game. And where that sometimes does have a place in PE through games creation, game play, that is not what PE looks like to us anymore. We've talked about so much, there's so many skills that can be developed through, like we do, head, heart, hands, and I want them to see the greater importance that it's having and the impact that it can have on the student's life, their child's life, on their life. We want to, and we're looking into doing parent and student sessions after school,
great.
Opening the parents' opportunities as well. It might be that they can't financially afford that provision, or that they had a negative experience in PE, and we're really trying to show them that it's not the same as it used to be 20 years ago. It's not the same as it used to be 5 years ago.
Yeah.
It's constantly changing. And I think Teen are really good at trying to keep up with that. And I would just love for other teachers as well to recognise that we're not just out on the field having these all day.
That's nice. Yeah, good. Carrie?
Until it gets to round season.
Carrie?
For me, I think the time restriction on PE that's given in schools. I think it comes down to reducing a bit of the stigma as well of, they should have 2 hours per week. I think it should be every day. I think, again, it would increase the positive experiences students have. It increase the importance of it around school, but also the community. If they look at their child's timetable and PE is on there every day, you're going to think of it important. In the same way that as PE teachers, we advocate for the importance of maths and English. Some of the students that thrive in PE, that's their worst nightmare, sitting down and reading a book or reading aloud in a presentation in English. And I think if we could, reduce the time restriction and reduce the pressures of when there's revision on, PE is the first subject that gets cut. Or if there's initial anxieties, okay, you don't have to go to all your lessons, you don't have to go to PE, you definitely don't have to go to PE. And I think that's one, going to increase the importance of the subject in school, in the community, among students, but also it gives us the time to develop them in all the ways we know PE can. I genuinely, I know it seems unrealistic, but I genuinely think if they had PE every day, kids would be physically fitter. We wouldn't have the health crisis that we're in. Mentally, they'd be happier. Again, we wouldn't have the mental health crisis that we seem to be going down. Academically, I think they'd be stronger. I think we need to take a bit from sometimes the private sector where they value sport quite highly and results are higher. There is a correlation. It may not be complete cause, but there is a correlation. And then also, I think safer in school and at home. I think bullying would get spotted quicker. I think signs of abuse and neglect would get spotted quicker if it was every day. In the PE office, we're always on CPOMs, login, whether it's we've seen physical marks, tiredness, eating issues, friendship issues, bullying often comes up in PE, interactions when it becomes physical, when it becomes aggressive, when voices are raised. I think if we reduce the time pressure, it'd be a whole lot better for students, staff and parents and carers at home for all the reasons we know it's positive for.
I love that. Two incredible ambassadors for our subject sat opposite me. I'm sure the listeners agree. Keep fighting for our subject. If PE then could be, would be, or should be one word for pupils, what would that one word be, Ella?
Enjoyable.
Safe.
Enjoyable and safe. You change from inclusive, any reason?
Can I have two?
You can have two words.
I feel like we talk loads about inclusivity.
Yeah.
But if it's inclusive, they'll enjoy it.
Okay, great. Thank you both. It's invaluable to get ECT insights. It's an incredibly proud moment for me to see you two speak so eloquently and positively about our subject and see you doing so well in school. So listeners, hope you enjoyed the episode with Carrie and Ella. Would love to hear your thoughts as always when the episode is out. And thank you both.
Thank you.